Outland is a 1981 release sci-fi western written and directed by Peter Hyams.
Yeah, it stars Sean Connery as like a space marshal. These days, he's probably on Trump's Space Force, maybe. Yeah, and it's set on a mining colony on the moon of Io, which is one of Jupiter's moons, and obviously set in the future. Doesn't really say when, does it? But yeah, in the future, obviously. And they're mining titanium. Yes, there's a large workforce of a couple of thousand, I think. And yeah, they have like a small like police force to sort of keep everything in check. And Sean Connery's character has just arrived with his family. I think they have to do a year's rotation. And shortly after he's arrived, a guy goes a bit crazy. And he thinks that there's a spider on him, which obviously there isn't because he's in space in a spacesuit. And in the process of lashing around, he rips open his suit and then explodes from decompression. And there's a series of other people doing crazy things that end up in them dying in gruesome manners. And Sean begins to suspect there's something odd afoot. So yeah, he said it's like a sci-fi western, and it shares plot kind of with High Noon, which is western from the 50s. And I think originally Peter Hyams wanted to make a western, but right, yeah. In the 80s, the western genre was pretty dead because it had been done to death. So instead, he wrote, he kind of wrote a western in space, which kind of, Star Wars was, and it was kind of becoming a bit popular. And obviously Alien had come out a couple of years before that and was wildly successsible. So yeah, he did a sci-fi instead. And aesthetically it looks quite a lot like Alien.
Yeah, I mean that's because... So I'd never seen this before and I watched it. It was okay. It was quite fun. But yeah, it's not Alien.
No.
At all. But I say that because they clearly are going for an Alien like film.
Yeah.
The music at the beginning is Jerry Goldsmith.
The titles are even a bit
Alien.
Alien,
Titles does the kind of Alien thing. It's got that kind of very similar sounds to Alien, and then the film itself is obviously going for the claustrophobic thing. What I would say of it, because I think there were other films that came out in the early 80s that clearly had been either inspired by Alien or ripped off Alien, as it Contaminated is one. Which I think James Cameron had something to do. He was worked as a special effects guy on it or something. Right. It was one of the... Roger Corman did a lot of quite... I think there were about 2 or 3 films that came out in the 80s that from Roger Corman. He was a producer. He is a producer. And they'd clearly been lifted from Alien. There's at least... Contaminated is another one. But they're terrible.
Right.
For the most part. But this one I would say is it's in its own right. I thought it was quite a lot of fun. I mean, it's Sean Connery. Who doesn't like Sean Connery? I mean, Sean Connery is always playing Sean Connery at the end of the day.
Yeah.
He never changes his accent.
No.
He's always Scottish. I always remember in The Untouchables, he plays an Irishman, but he's a Scottishman. And he doesn't change he's always Sean Connery. But you got to love him for being, he's a great rogue. And I was reading a few reviews that said his performance in this was really wooden, but I didn't think that. I thought he did. He seemed to be enjoying himself. Yes, it's playing with that kind of isolation in space, but what? How different? Even now we're making films that are clearly inspired or ripping off Alien. How far can you go with it? I suppose there's two ways you can go with the sci-fi genre. You can either go realistically, something like Gravity, which is obviously, although it's a what if scenario, I suppose, but they are on a space station like what we have today. Or you do these massive space stations or colonies on planets, which obviously we haven't got to yet, and you do it that route. So there's not a lot of scope you can do with the sci-fi genre. So it's obviously going to take from films that have come before and films that have come before that are really popular. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Alien. You're a big fan of Alien as well. It's a classic film. It's not trying to be Alien, or maybe a little bit, but I did enjoy it. It felt quite like Total Recall, actually. This one a little bit. There's a few, nods. Well, that's later, obviously. I don't know. It just felt a little bit like that. that kind of colony. And, they're mining, obviously, which is, and I think obviously that. So this is a remake of High Noon, but it is very much the story of High Noon. Have you ever seen High Noon?
No.
It's a good film, Gary Cooper, and but this is kind of lifted from that. Much the same way, I suppose. Magnificent Seven is a lift of Seven Samurai and things like that. The good thing about there's certain genres of films that have really good stories in them, and they work anywhere in any time and any place. And it's got some great. There's a few nice. Although actually, all the people in the cast list will die within seconds. There's the guy from Cheers, John. Is it John Ratzenberg or something like that? He's the guy at the beginning with the. I was going to go for the alien thing. No, it was he thinks he's got a spider on his face. And Steven Berkoff, the bad guy from Beverly Hills Cop, he's in it for not very long either. But I suppose they're beginning of their careers in a way. I thought it was a bit cheesy, but it's kind of cheesy fun at the end of the day. But it's quite it's classic, isn't it? I mean, or is it?
I don't know. I think
it's a name I know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's never been like it's not in the same league as Alien, but it's it's a known film. And obviously, it's Sean Connery, which gives it a little bit more, makes it a little bit more recognisable. But but no, it's never. It's not like it's lost in the mist of time or anything. So
No. I tend to read some of the reviews of the films we cover before we talk about them. And there seemed to be quite a lot of people that didn't like it, found it quite cheesy, and Sean Connery wooden and all that kind of stuff. I didn't agree with a lot of what they were saying. I think it's not overly original, the film, but it was it was quite enjoyable
for when it came out. And there was a lot of quite cheesy sci-fi films in the 80s, but I don't think this is this one looks good, and the effects, while they're obviously. Compared to today, they're quite basic, but for the time, nothing looks really ridiculous or anything like that.
No, it doesn't do. What I always loved about some sci-fi films is they often remind you of Red Dwarf. Yeah. Obviously we had Red Dwarf, a classic 90s sitcom with the effects through it. Well, not terrible, but there was it was a little bit ropey. But obviously it was comedy and they had no money. And they're just having fun with it anyway. And some sci-fi films in the 80s, I always thought, a little bit like Red Dwarf effects and things like that. But I think the effects in here are quite good. The bit when the guy's head explodes in his helmet was quite effective. I think it was a good little romp.
Yes.
Quite enjoyable.
I think the only thing you would say is that it's sort of story-wise... the scope of where it's set, like a moon out by Jupiter, quite epic. The actual story is quite small, and what's happening is quite small for the actual location where it's taking place.
Sure, yeah.
But if you really think about it, but obviously, again, the budget and the effects available. What are they going to do with it?
Just don't think about the plot. And you'll have an enjoyable time.
But no, it's just like we said, it's a western set somewhere else, basically. So
yes. I mean, if it had been a western, they would have been the miners digging for gold. But here they are digging for what?
Titanium.
Titanium. That's the one.
Apparently, lots of it on IO. Don't know if that's true. Who knows?
No, and that is actually IO, but then it's got IO.
What?
Well, at the beginning of the film it says I-O, I-O,
yes, that's how you spell
and then it's got in brackets I-E-Y-E.
Oh, how to say it phonetically.
O-H,
yeah.
Obviously.
Just for people that don't know how to say
and that's what they were going to name the film, but then all the people were like, well, they might think it's called 10.
Yes, or Low.
Or Low, yeah.
Or Law.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they changed it.
Outland is a much better title, I think. But it's obviously, it's directed by Peter Hyams, who made other
Capricorn
films.
1.
Capricorn 1 is a great film. Legendary film, yeah.
A Relic.
A
monster movie from the 90s,
That's right, yeah.
Love that film.
He did the sequel to 2001 as well.
Yeah, 2010,
I think he got that from this film.
I mean, that I thought that was really good as well.
I've never seen that.
It's good. It also did TIMECOP. classic Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, indeed.
So
Well, he's British, isn't he, Peter Hyams?
I
think
believe
he
so.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's also I think he's like one of the few filmmakers that also works as he's the cinematographer as well.
Right.
Because there was a thing on this film Outland that he apparently hired a cinematographer and then basically got him to just be a kind of scapegoat for the producers, and the producer and the cinematographer was a little bit annoyed by that fact, which I guess you would be had you been hired under dodgy circumstances, but who knows. Yeah, so I think if you haven't seen this one, I don't know if it's a cult film or anything like that, but
Not quite, but
not
getting
quite.
there, I suppose. Yeah.
It's probably must be a fan base for it out there somewhere. But you obviously can see it. Do you have it?
Yeah. I mean, I used to have it on DVD many moons ago. A while ago, HMV added it to their premium collection, so you got the Blu-ray and DVD, and that's it. I mean, it's obviously big enough to get a Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of films that never get that.
Nice.
So I mean, what this has over the DVD is a commentary from Peter Hyams, and some postcards, because who doesn't love some postcards? So
You clearly not.
no, I don't know. It's just trees, waste of trees, really, isn't it? Some pictures. If you want to see a picture, just go online. I don't know, or watch the film. It's got lots of pictures joined together to form the illusion of movement.
That's very clever.
You could just pause it if you want to see a picture of it. And obviously, it's been released in the US as well. I think it was maybe on the Warner archive label. I think, maybe possibly. Anyway, it's been released over there as well. Basically, the same disc. It is available in lots of countries, so not hard to find. Not something I see on TV particularly. Actually, that was something I read that when it was first broadcast on TV, there was lots of cuts segments that were added back in because they used to make these films as long as possible so they could sail as many ad breaks as possible. But unfortunately, none of that footage is on the disc. So obviously, there is stuff out there somewhere that deleted scenes, so to speak, and a TV version that it's obviously not quite a big enough film to call for that. But it'll be interesting to see, but probably never going to see the light of day, unfortunately.
So that was Outland, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Yep, hit the subscribe button up there if you've liked what you've watched. And there's some other videos over there that you can check out. Come and find us on Twitter and Facebook, and come back next week for another video.